At 5:52 that morning, Astron Air's command pairing system showed a draft objection for Flight 644. The selected field read Crew Coordination. The evidence box was empty. First Officer Camille Arden knew nothing about it. She was downstairs in the employee cafe, peeling the foil from a cup of yogurt and answering a message from her younger brother. "Bring back the blue tin this time." Camille typed, "I remember," and slipped the phone into her flight bag. Before sunrise, she had completed the oceanic threat brief for the Amsterdam crossing. The document listed crosswind limits, alternate airports, fuel contingencies, and the point where the crew would turn back if North Atlantic weather closed the route. Astron's flight planning system had sealed the submitted version under Camille's crew number. She could revise the brief before submission, but any later change would create a new version and a new checksum. The original checksum, submission time, author, and captain acceptance would remain in the audit trail for 7 years. Operations administrators could retrieve the record. They could not overwrite those fields. Camille entered the cockpit with the printed brief resting on top of her bag. Captain Warren Sloan stood behind the right seat with one hand on its headrest. "Do not sit down," he said. "I have not accepted this pairing." Rain moved across the windshield. A baggage vehicle passed below the nose, its amber light turning once over the instrument panel. Camille stopped beside the center pedestal. "Crew scheduling assigned me last night. My qualification and rest status are current." Warren looked at the 3 stripes on her shoulder, then at her name on the threat brief. "I know what the roster says." He had flown for Astron for almost 3 decades. Within the company, he was known for protecting departure reliability and for deciding quickly whether another pilot belonged in his cockpit. He regarded that instinct as part of command, not as prejudice. A captain who hesitated, he believed, allowed small doubts to become operational risks. Was this assignment made for the flight, he asked, or for the appearance of the crew list? Camille felt her thumb press against the handle of her bag. For a moment, she considered answering the insult rather than the procedure. She had been awake since before 4 and had little patience left for coded language. She placed the brief on the right seat. "The route package is complete. Which qualification are you questioning?" "That was not my question." "It is the question the departure record requires." Warren removed the cockpit tablet from its mount. The pairing objection form was already open. Camille saw crew coordination selected and the evidence field blank. A valid objection required an observed action, the time it occurred, the affected procedure, and the immediate safety risk. Fatigue, medical concern, expired qualification, and specific communication failures could justify stopping a departure. Personal confidence could not. "What action are you recording?" Camille asked. "I am not conducting a hearing in my cockpit. You are creating an employment record. It needs an observable basis." Warren turned the tablet toward her. Beneath the objection form was an option labeled Voluntary Reassignment. "Sign there. Scheduling will place you on another trip. No formal dispute and no delay attached to your file." Camille read the screen but did not touch it. "If you are rejecting the pairing, record it under your name." The forward curtain moved. Lead flight attendant Lydia Park entered with the cabin readiness sheet. Warren told her to hold boarding because the first officer had created a coordination problem. Lydia looked at Camille's closed flight bag, the untouched controls, and the brief lying on the seat. She had worked enough trips with Warren to understand what disagreement with him could cost. Lead assignments came through recommendations. So did evaluations of cabin authority. She marked the boarding hold. She did not ask what Camille had done. Warren called flight operations. Celeste Rourke answered from the control desk. "What safety deficiency are you reporting?" Celeste asked. "Loss of command confidence." "That is not a listed deficiency. Use crew coordination." What instruction did she fail to follow? She challenged the pairing. Celeste warned him that an objection without an objective event would lock the aircraft release for independent review. "Send a reserve," Warren said. He submitted the form. The departure display changed to amber. Camille's crew status moved from assigned to removed pending review. A second field asked whether she had left voluntarily. Warren selected yes. A verification request appeared on Camille's phone. She pressed decline. The system corrected the status to captain-directed removal. Warren placed the tablet face down. Captain Rafael Soto arrived several minutes later, rain darkening one shoulder of his uniform. Warren asked him to take the right seat so they could recover the departure. He did not ask Rafael about recent winter crossings, route currency, or training restrictions. Rafael opened the electronic package. Camille's oceanic threat brief appeared first. He reviewed the crosswind entry, alternate fuel line, and turnback point. He changed nothing. Warren signed the acceptance field. Rafael looked toward Camille, who was standing beyond the cockpit threshold. "You accepted her brief?" "The work is usable," Warren said. "The pairing is not." That answer entered the audit trail beside his signature. At the operations desk, Celeste received both records together. Warren had claimed Camille presented a crew coordination risk. Minutes later, he had accepted her operational analysis without revision when a different pilot occupied the seat. Celeste placed Flight 644 under independent hold and suspended Warren's command access for that departure. Camille was directed to a molded chair beside the operations printer. Warren received the glass conference room. A standards coordinator brought Camille an interview worksheet. A blue box had already been checked beside communication resistance. The coordinator covered it with a routing label before asking Camille to describe what happened. Camille gave the sequence: assignment confirmation, completed pre-flight work, Warren's refusal, the unsupported objection, and the request that she classify the removal as voluntary. She did not speculate about his motives. She also did not pretend she was unaffected. Her first answer came out sharper than she intended. "He decided what I represented before he reviewed what I prepared." Camille paused, put both hands flat on her knees, and returned to the record. "Please include the time the objection draft was opened." Across the glass, Warren spoke with his palms spread over the table. His account began with cockpit compatibility. When the coordinator asked for a disobeyed instruction, he changed the explanation. "She refused to leave after I ended the pairing." The record omitted that he had asked Camille to call the departure voluntary. Celeste printed the qualification comparison. Camille's rest period was valid. Her aircraft currency exceeded the route minimum. Her oceanic experience was current. She had no training restriction. End 10. Rafael gave his statement. Warren had not questioned his recent crossings, route experience, or communication history. He had only asked Rafael to recover the flight. Celeste then retrieved the oceanic threat brief from the flight planning archive. Its checksum matched the document Warren had signed. The submission time preceded the pairing objection. The acceptance time followed Camille's removal. Neither timestamp could be edited. Warren shifted his explanation again. "The brief was technically adequate. My concern was how she responded to command." Dana Kessler, an independent compliance examiner, later placed that sentence beside the empty evidence field. "A reaction to an unsupported decision cannot serve as the event that justified the decision," she said. Lydia arrived with a safety note receipt folded inside her service manual. She confirmed that Warren had referred to Camille as an appearance appointment before discussing any operational issue. She also acknowledged that she had carried out the boarding hold without requesting a basis. When Warren later asked her to state that Camille had destabilized the cockpit, Lydia selected "unable to attest." Her note had entered an independent cabin reporting queue before Warren completed his interview. The timing did not erase her earlier silence. It prevented her name from supporting a false account. Flight 644 departed with an entirely replacement crew. Rafael was excluded because he was now a witness. Camille was not restored to the flight because her removal had become part of a formal review. Warren called Martin Keene, the union safety representative. Martin filed an emergency grievance asserting captain discretion. That filing triggered preservation of every pairing objection Warren had submitted during the previous several years. It also activated a confidential code in Camille's employee file. The code belonged to a board-authorized culture audit. Camille was flying under her legal name as a licensed first officer. She was also Astron Air's controlling shareholder and its chief executive designate. Her identity opened the governance review. It did not decide its outcome. At the evening hearing, Board Chair Elias Bell disclosed the authorization and immediately removed Camille from the decision panel. Dana would control the evidence review. The union would retain its right to challenge the findings. Warren called the audit entrapment. Camille said nothing. Months earlier, she had read a dashboard summarizing captain complaints as interpersonal conflicts and accepted the category without opening the underlying files. She had trusted a reporting system that reduced individual careers to colored bars. Her position had given her access, but she had not used it carefully enough. 11 earlier pairing files were retrieved. Several contained the same unsupported phrases: style mismatch, insufficient command confidence, and overcautious monitoring. A black first officer had received a communication warning after requesting a go-around. A woman pilot had lost upgrade credit after disputing a post-flight evaluation. Male replacement pilots with equal or lower recent route experience had been accepted without the same review. Dana did not treat those histories as proof by reputation. She compared each objection with qualification records, flight data, replacement criteria, and the original timestamps. The pattern was measurable. Warren had repeatedly used the pairing process without recording an observable safety event. After removing a pilot, he had converted the pilot's request for a basis into evidence of poor coordination. The same structure used against Camille appeared across the earlier files. A completion incentive schedule explained part of his logic. Flights completed without a diversion or go-around increased his quarterly reliability payment. He had come to treat pilots who disrupted completion statistics as threats to operational discipline. At the final compliance meeting, a white packet rested beside a correction ledger containing 11 names. Dana read the chronology for Camille first. Threat, brief, submitted. Objection draft opened. Crew coordination field selected. No evidence entered. Voluntary status selected by Warren. Personal verification declined. Replacement accepted. Original brief signed without revision. Then she read the earlier cases in the same order. Elias disabled Warren's captain authorization before the meeting ended. His access to crew evaluations, route assignments, training records, and safety classification systems was suspended. Termination still required a contractual hearing, and certificate action belonged to the aviation regulator. Camille did not request an exception. Asteron's communications department had prepared a statement presenting the company as having protected its future chief executive. A photographer and press briefing were ready. The other 10 corrections remained unfinished. One affected pilot had moved to lower-paying cargo work after losing an upgrade. Another had been denied captain training. Several still carried unsupported communication remarks in their histories. The communications director proposed releasing Camille's result first. Camille closed the draft. "You cannot advertise the correction while the same record still harms everyone without my title." An external monitor took control of the ledger. Departments could calculate compensation, but they could no longer route responsibility back to one another. Lost trips were reconciled. Unsupported remarks were removed. Replacement notices went to promotion committees and regulators. One former pilot received reimbursement for earnings lost because of the false evaluation. Another received the training position she had been denied. At A. Warren's contractual panel later sustained termination for cause. He lost his employment, captain seniority, evaluator authority, training privileges, and access to internal crew systems. The regulator separately reviewed the preserved flight data and altered evaluations. His commercial pilot certificate was revoked after the panel concluded that he had suppressed safety calls and misrepresented the reasons for multiple crew objections. Martin lost the authority to approve emergency reinstatement requests alone. Cases involving discrimination, retaliation, or altered safety records would require a second union reviewer from another base. Lydia received a formal failure to intervene finding. She temporarily lost lead cabin and junior evaluation authority and completed an independent crew assertiveness program. Her record retained both parts of her conduct. She followed an unsupported hold, and she later refused to validate a false statement. Asteron adopted the crew pairing integrity protocol. Every objection now required an observed action, exact time, affected procedure, and stated operational risk. A pilot could not be classified as leaving voluntarily without personal confirmation. The captain initiating an objection could not write the resulting career evaluation. When a replacement was accepted, the system automatically compared both pilots' qualifications, route currency, and training status. An equal or less qualified replacement triggered external review. The objection form could not be submitted with an empty evidence field. Completion incentives no longer penalized safe diversions or go-arounds. Camille refused to let the protocol carry her name. Months later, she entered another wide-body cockpit as first officer. A different captain was reviewing the departure risk sheet. Between the thrust levers rested a dual signature release card. Camille briefed the crosswind, the alternate airport, the fuel contingency, and the turnback point. The captain asked why she had selected the northern alternate. She showed him the forecast sequence. He checked the figures, placed his pen beneath her printed name, and signed. Outside, the tug began pushing the aircraft away from the gate. Camille's phone remained zipped inside her bag beside a blue tin she had remembered to buy. When Lydia first saw the unsupported boarding hold, should she have challenged Warren immediately, or did preserving an independent record become the most responsible action still available to her? This is a fictional story created to examine procedure, accountability, access, and institutional reform.